Bro, are we cooked? Are we cooked? And when I say we, I mean guys that are fans of MMA as well as boxing. But of course, I'm an MMA guy traditionally. And man, to see what boxing is doing to our MMA guys.
Focus. No! AJ touched him, he went down!
3, 4, 5,
What a shot!
6,
Straight right hand!
7.
Good left hand from Paul.
It's kind of messed me up in my head a little bit. Unfortunately, Tony Ferguson is signed to fight way down beneath where he should be fighting. But it's an interesting one because, in my mind, I think he probably loses this shit. Tony Ferguson is signed to fight Salt Papi, TikTok star, social media star, whatever you want to call him, known for like running in place and shit. I don't even know where the salt part comes in play. I guess he was doing the rub his hands shit and dropping salt on food. I don't know. Anyways, the kid can box. Honestly, he started off doing social media boxing, little misfits boxing fights here and there, but overall, he's got like a 4-2 record in boxing. And honestly, put the record aside, if you look at the guy's skills, I mean, he's poised in there, um, and he knows how to box. You know what I mean? He's actually pretty fucking good for somebody that didn't grow up boxing, for someone that is pretty new to it and came up just in the social media era of boxing. So it's an interesting fight. Tony Ferguson is obviously beloved, right? He had a bit of a downfall, right? He had some crazy moments throughout his career. Um, After sort of his rise and fall, I guess you'd call it. When I say fall, I mean when he tripped over that cord and messed up his opportunity to fight Habib. But yeah, like I said, he had a great career, and kind of had a big fall when he kind of went crazy after all that, and seemed like he was trying to catch his bearings after messing up a part of his career or missing a part of his career. I wouldn't even necessarily blame him, but he just had so many bad things that kind of happened throughout the end of his career in the UFC, and it just didn't play out the way that I think we all expected it. And he had fights that kind of fell through the cracks. So it's unfortunate for Tony Ferguson. And like I said, to end his career the way that he did in MMA, to end up here now. He was signed initially to what is it, the World Fight League or whatever. That shit was trash. That whole team scenario that they had going on, I knew that shit was gonna be a flop. And here we are now. Tony Ferguson signed with them. Shit fell through, of course. He was still riding for them, thinking that it was gonna happen, and now he's over here about to fight a social media kid who's probably gonna box his face off. And that's just, like I said, coming from a Tony Ferguson fan. Uh, I hate to see it. I really do. It hurts my heart that this is probably going to be the last one. If he goes out there and gets his ass beat, I hope it's the last one. I hope he never laces up a glove again. Probably not even in training. I mean, maybe he needs to train. I don't know. We've seen Tony go off the deep end a couple of times, and I don't want to see anything negative happen to him. I don't want to see him running across freeways with his child again or anything crazy like that, of course. But at the end of the day, he probably should stop fighting if he gets his ass beat by this kid, and that's the fact of the matter. Like I said, the kid can box. Doesn't come from a traditional boxing background or anything like that, and neither does Tony Ferguson. He does a lot of work on the speed bag, and that's about as close to like actual boxing that I really see Tony Ferguson doing. In his career in MMA, he was not the best boxer. That's for damn sure. Was he horrible? I wouldn't say that. I think he knew how to take punches and give them too if you were there to be hit, but that's not boxing. MMA striking versus boxing is pretty different, and the distance is different. The things that you can get away with are very different, and I think in this one, as he gets older, he's slowed up a bit. All that work he's doing on dummies and bags it's not going to do it for him. This kid, like I said, he's growing and he's getting better. He's been around boxing now for a few years, since like 2022, and he can fight. So, like I said, young, hungry, he's got some pop to him. I feel like at the end of the day, Tony Ferguson is going to take an L on this, and it's going to be a shame to see him go down like that. That's not the Tony Ferguson we knew that was tying Habib's record, for wins in the lightweight division. Might have been a win streak in the division for so long. It's gonna be shitty to see. Like I said, I wish the best for him. Boxing is taking MMA guys that were, once champions, or guys that were even, up and coming guys that were supposed to be champions, right? Moving on from that fight, you'll see we have Darren Till fighting Luke Rockhold. Again, you got two guys that Darren Till had all the hype in the world. You know what I mean? After coming after Connor, seemed like he was riding that next wave of like this star from UK, and he was going to be the next big thing. Was on the mic talking crazy, and everybody had all this hype around him, and they rushed him out there, and boy, did that just not work out for the UFC. Put him up in there with Tyron Woodley, and ever since then, he just really was never the same. So it makes sense that he went over to boxing. Again, a guy that really primarily boxed in his career anyway, so kind of makes sense. But to see Luke Rockhold going over there, I don't really like that. To be honest with you, Luke Rockhold to me was really good at submitting people and had a really nasty left kick. So to see him now going over to straight boxing, I don't really like it, and I don't like it because I know he's pretty chinny. And Darren Till's younger. Darren Till's younger. He's been now boxing. I think he only has like one or two actual just boxing fights, but either way, he's coming off of like beating Anthony Taylor. That guy's fucking trash. But Luke Rockhold's not trash, and he's not small like Anthony Taylor is either. So I can't write him off. But Luke Rockhold just doesn't seem to take a punch that well anymore. He's definitely had that piece in him where he'll give up a little bit. So be interesting to see what happens in both of these fights. But again, just MMA fighters coming over to boxing. I don't love it. I really don't. I just don't love it. It doesn't typically work out in our favor. So we'll have to see what happens there. Uh, for actual boxing this weekend, we have Manny Pacquiao versus Mario Barrios, and that's an interesting fight as well. Manny Pacquiao's old as shit. Sorry, still fast, but he's old, and that's a later generation, a later era of boxing. Mario Barrios has also he's been around for a while. You know what I mean? He's been world champion. He deserves a big fight, that's for sure. It's his belt that they're fighting for. So I don't want to write off Mario Barrios thinking that Manny Pacquiao is going to go out there and do old Manny Pacquiao shit. And when I say old Manny Pacquiao shit, I don't mean Manny Pacquiao being old. I mean Manny Pacquiao that we know, old Pacquiao. Um, if you notice Manny Pacquiao with his style, he's always he fights in sprints. And as you get older, I wonder how many of those sprints he has in him within a 12-round fight. A lot of sprints and a lot of punches where he throws, just like a lot of 1-2s moving forward. You could even see it in his pad work, just a lot of 1-2s moving straight forward. Still leaves his chin pretty wide open. He's just so fast that people usually don't counter over the top of it unless you're like, Juan Manuel Marquez, and you can capitalize on it. But that was older generation of boxing. Not that those guys were any less than what we deal with now. I just think that the knowledge of boxing has gotten it's gotten bigger, right? We had those guys to go off of and those guys to learn from. So I think Barrios, honestly, in my opinion, is probably going to capitalize on that. I think he's going to see an opening and he might catch Manny Pacquiao. Barrios isn't known for like thudding power, but in my mind, you don't always have to have crazy power to knock somebody out. I think it's about timing. And Mario Barrios is young. Like I said, he's a world champion. He knows what he's doing in there. And I would say the youth is going to take this win. I don't like the I don't like the old guys coming back all the time. Manny Pacquiao is one that can probably get away with it. He seems, like I said, he's still fast. He still moves well. But how much can your body take when it comes to damage? Mario Barrios is one that we've seen in many wars, and I think we all know that he can take the damage. So we'll see what happens. It's an interesting fight. It's not a fight that normally, back in the day, I would have said that Manny Pacquiao could lose, but in this one, I'm gonna run with the young bull this time. You know what I mean? That's what I'm gonna do. Excuse my collar. Okay, I got a 9-month-old baby, and he likes to pull on my shirt every chance he gets, so it looks crazy. But anyways, crazy week. A lot of things moving in boxing per usual. I saw a clip as well that Turkey Al Sheikh is planning to get rid of pay per view. Getting rid of the old pay per view model that's been around for so long. I don't really know the benefit of doing that for his perspective. Maybe streaming wise, if you end up on Netflix or one of these other big streaming platforms, you're still making a ton of money. I don't know. I'm not on that business side of things, but obviously the old pay per view model has worked for so long. That's why they've kept doing it for all these years. So that's interesting. As fans, does it benefit us? Hell yeah, it benefits us. I don't know about you guys, but I don't like paying $70, $80 for the UFC fights. I don't like paying $100 to watch these guys fight. I don't know if it's always $100, but like Floyd was making $100 pay per view fights and shit like that. So it's not fun when the numbers go up crazy like that. It's not fun to have so many fights that happen throughout the month, and inflation everywhere. Everything's expensive. I know everybody's feeling that. So to actually think that we're going to pay for those fights, it's not reality. I think most people are streaming them anyways, and I think that's why they're trying to get rid of the pay-per-view model. So we'll see what happens. Like I said, it's an interesting take on it. It's an interesting move that will be seen probably even in the UFC as they move over to Netflix. I don't think that they're going to be doing that. Now it's not confirmed that they're moving to Netflix, but I think they probably are going to be moving to Netflix, and I think it's going to help the viewership as fans, and hopefully it benefits them and the fighters just the same as it does as getting pay-per-view points at the end of their fights. Pay-per-view points, the pay-per-view model gave guys a reason to be exciting, a reason to be able to sell tickets, sell the fight, made people talk to shit to get people to tune in. So it'll be a weird thing to see how things change if that's what happens on both ends of things for boxing and for MMA. So we'll see where it goes from there. But anyways, see what happens after this week. We'll tap in.